pretty stoked about this delivery right now. Let's go check it out. Hi, Kaya. Hi, Luna. There it is. Freaking massive. I've actually got to go take care of a couple things right now, so we'll be back in just a second here to check that out. These two aren't best buddies, but they get along. They tolerate each other. Kaya always wants to play, but Luna has no interest in playing. Hey, watch your tone. So when I first got the truck cabin, it was pretty bare bones. There weren't many amenities. There were a few things that I knew that I was gonna want to change, and nothing big, nothing major, but I think that the things that I am going to change, some of which I already have, which you'll see in a little bit, I think these changes are gonna vastly improve the quality of life while traveling in the cabin. And today that's what we're doing. This box, what we've got in here is a new fridge. The cabin didn't have any sort of fridge or cooler when I got it. I've just been using my Yeti cooler. And while the Yeti cooler does work, if you guys have traveled with the cooler, you know what a pain it becomes to constantly be making sure that you have ice, emptying out the water. All of your food is getting soggy and wet as the ice melts. So I knew that I was gonna be needing a fridge, and that's what this massive box is. I'm really excited. I do want to give you guys full disclosure here that Iceco did send me this fridge for free, but they're not paying me at all. They're not sponsoring this video in any way. This just happens to be the fridge that I went with. This model is the VL75 Pro D. It's a dual zone fridge freezer combo, and I'm super stoked about the freezer because now I could bring ice cream with me while I'm camping. How freaking awesome is that? But seriously, all jokes aside, I think that having a fridge is probably gonna be hands down the biggest upgrade that I make to the cabin. That's just gonna increase my overall happiness and the ease of camping while I'm out there. So as you can see, a fridge this size, this is pretty much the only spot that I could put it. And I think it works perfectly because not only is it a big fridge with a lot of capacity, but I could use it as a step to get up to my bed. So this is where it's gonna stay for now. So I don't really have anywhere that good on this side of the cabin to place the portable power station. At first, I was thinking I would just leave it over here and maybe ratchet strap it down or something like that. But if I did leave it here, then that cord, the power cord, would really just run out and be totally in the way. And it would also look really bad. It would get in the way of opening this drawer probably. So that's not really gonna work. And then as you can see on this side, I just have my couch and I don't wanna just set it on the cushion. So if I place the power station in this cubby right here, as you can see, I have the power cord already kind of hidden behind the couch cushion, and then it just goes over here to this side and down over here into the side of the fridge. So that is very nice and tidy. The cord is out of sight. It's tucked away. It looks good, and this is the perfect spot for the power station. Now the only downside is in order to get this power outlet through to the other side, obviously this is all solid wood here, so I'm gonna have to drill out a little hole over here so this could go through and plug into the power station. It's always less than ideal to drill holes into the camper, especially large holes like that, but it's one of those things where it is what it is. It's not a huge deal because it's gonna kind of be hidden behind the cushion either way, and I think that that's still my best route, so let's go ahead and take care of that right now. Before we drill the hole, let's just do a test fitting here to make sure that this is gonna be the right spot for this. Yeah, that's perfect. That fits in there like a glove. Plenty of space for the cord to come in and plug in. I could still access all of the controls here and other ports. Eventually, what I could also do is I could run some outlets from these outlets here and kind of run those up and have little outlets on the side of this cabinet. That way I could just plug things in right over here. Maybe even build like a little shelf or something to like set phones or other things that are charging. The world is really my oyster here. Probably have it go in right about there is probably good enough for me. All right, here goes nothing. I'm a total idiot because I just realized that the other side of the power cable has a much smaller plug on it. So I could have used smaller hole saw, ran this end all the way through the hole, fed the wire through, and just plugged in the larger plug into the power station. So now I could run the cord behind the cushion here, like so. Now, even though it's gonna be behind a couch cushion, I still wanna tidy it up a little bit, so I'm gonna be using these guys here. And these guys are little cable clamps, and instead of nailing them down like you would these guys, which are like coaxial staples, see they got the little nail on the end there, these you would have to hammer down. These have a little adhesive on them, so less holes, the better. I got these on Amazon in case you guys want to use these. These are great for cable management in the house or whatever. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy, but it is nice to have at least somewhat of a tidy wire running back here rather than just a loose wire, you know? Bam. Perfect. All right, the fridge is on. It's running. So that's pretty much done. That's good to go. Another added bonus feature about this fridge is it just extends my seating capacity this much more. If you wanted, you could sit 2 people, maybe even 3. I could also sit like this with my legs up. All right, the next biggest upgrade to the cabin is a really exciting one, and it's actually something that I already installed, and I have been talking about this a lot in my recent videos. You guys hear that? You hear that air blowing? That, my friends, is the sweet sound of a diesel heater. We have heat, baby. We have sweet, dry diesel heat. And I'm super stoked for this upgrade. Honestly, this is probably, to me, the most exciting, and the reason why this isn't really the biggest upgrade is because the fridge and the freezer is something that I'm gonna be using year-round. Obviously, the diesel heater, for the most part, is only gonna be used in the winter, but still, either way, like, I am so excited about this one. This is something I've always wanted. Let me show you guys the diesel heater that I ended up going with. So you could probably see the little logo there, but I ended up going with the Autoterm Air 2D diesel heater. So Autoterm used to actually be called Planar, and you might have heard of that company. They're really popular in like the overlanding space. Same company, they just ultimately ended up changing their name. But anyways, Autoterm is known to make very high quality diesel heaters. They're pretty comparable to Webasto, Espar, and those high-end companies, but the Autoterms are much cheaper than the Webastos and the Espars. Those are almost like double the price, and a lot of the components, from my research at least, are pretty comparable. Now, Autoterm is based in Latvia, so they're still built to European standards. All of the components are really high quality, and they're supposed to be really robust and reliable diesel heaters. This particular model puts out 2,000 kilowatts of heat, which is plenty to get it nice and toasty in here. And it does it quick too. So let me just go ahead and show you guys how I have it set up. So I actually have the diesel heater itself and the fuel tank all contained out here in this storage box. And I ended up putting a lock on it just to make sure nobody messes with any of that. So let me just open that up and I'll show you guys. All right, so right here, this is the actual heater unit itself, the Autotherm Air 2D. I just got it bolted to the deck of my porch here. Back here, we've got the fuel pump, and the fuel line is right there. All of the electrical plugs, all of it is contained right here in this area. And then over here, I have my diesel fuel tank. This is actually also made by the Autotherm brand. It's a very high quality one compared to like the cheap ones you get on Amazon. All right, so the way I have this set up is this side is the air intake. I needed a minimum of 2 inches between the intake and any wall on this side. And this, as you can see, is well over 2 inches. So we're good over there. And on this side of the heater is the actual heat output vent. And I've got this ducting attached to the output. And I cut a hole in this box to run the ducting out onto this side. And the ducting runs into the camper. I cut a big hole in the side of the camper, which was pretty terrifying. But over here on the other side, this is the vent. And this is where all of the hot air blows out into the cabin. So the fuel line itself comes right out of the fuel tank, runs over here to the fuel pump, and then the fuel line goes down beneath, and I'll go show you what it looks like underneath. So this is what it looks like on the underside. Right here, this is the air intake. Got it routed over here, kind of pointing a little bit away from the camper. And then on this side, we have the exhaust tube. Here's some insulation wrapped around the exhaust tube. This is the muffler, and can't really tell from this angle, but there is a gap between the muffler and the wood, because of course you don't want the hot muffler sitting on the wood. And then this is the end of the exhaust pipe. And over here, this is the fuel line where it comes out, where I showed you up from above. And that just gets routed right here directly into the diesel heater. So according to the instructions, you wanted to have at least 7 inches between the air intake and the exhaust. And this is well over 7 inches. This is over a foot. I believe I have about 13 inches of a gap between these two. So the exhaust should not be anywhere close to getting sucked in by the air intake over here. As for the electrical wiring, I've got that running down here in a separate hole that I drilled. And I have that just mounted all along the underside of the deck here, the porch, I should say. And that just gets routed all along here, over here to this side, and then that goes up. There's that same wire loom, and that goes up into the cabin here, and that goes directly into the battery compartment. So right here is where the wire loom comes up through the wall of the camper there. We got fuses that came with the heater itself. This was all kind of already attached. And then these power cables just run directly to the positive and negative terminals on the battery. Overall, I'm really happy with how the diesel heater install turned out. There was a lot of different options as far as where I wanted to mount the heater. And at first I was torn. I didn't know if I wanted to put it somewhere inside or if I wanted to have it all in that external storage box there. And there was different kind of places that you can mount things and different places to route the cables and the vents and all that. And there's all kinds of possibilities when it comes to installing a heater. So realistically, that's probably the hardest part about installing it, is just figuring out exactly where you want everything to go. And then of course, drilling a 3-inch hole in the side of the camper is probably the most daunting task, but that's why you just want to double check, triple check, you know, really make sure that that is where you want the hole to be, because that is where the hole is gonna go. Yeah, really stoked to finally have a diesel heater after all these years. Now, all that's left to do is head to the mountains and test it out in the very near future. I mean, I've already tested it out here and ran it for hours and it performed flawlessly, but now I need to just like actually go use it in the cold, snowy mountains. Now, another little change that I made was I added this dowel here to be a coat rack. As you can see, now I have a place to store my jackets, hang up shirts, hang up all that kind of thing. Before, this was just a totally open cubby, so there's no way of hanging things up. And it made this whole space kind of useless, honestly. So, small change, but it makes a big difference. So one thing that I have found that I really can't stand while I'm camping or on road trips, especially for extended periods of time, is shuffling gear around. It really takes away from the experience for me, having to move so many things around just to have space to, you know, exist. And one of those things in my recent trips that I've been having to shuffle around is this folding TV dinner tray. And yeah, it's not that big of a deal to have to take it out of my bed when it's time to set it up and then put it back, store it somewhere else when it's not in use. But it definitely is something that I knew I wanted to upgrade. So this right here, what I just picked up, is a Lagan table. And this is actually something that I didn't really feel an urgent need to upgrade right away, but I happened to be on Facebook Marketplace and I saw somebody selling the mount, basically brand new, for about half the cost that it is to order one new. So I thought, you know, what the heck, it's half the cost, I might as well just go get it now, install it, and then the quality of life in the camper will just be that much better. So that's what we're doing right now. If I could figure this out. This is the mounting plate. This is the vertical leg, and then this is the leg that I believe, or it's the arm, I should say, that I believe holds the tabletop itself. So this kind of should go in like that, right? And then this kind of slides in like that, I believe. I got the mount more or less assembled here, and it's able to swivel like this, and then this top part is also able to swivel as well. And then down here, it's height adjustable. So now I'm debating where exactly I want to mount this thing. My two options are over on this side, and if I mount it on this side, then the table could be used, it seems like, in more positions. I could flip it around over here and use it as a table when I'm sitting on the fridge, which you guys are sitting on top of right now. Or I could swing it around and use it while I'm sitting right here in the middle. And then when it's not in use, I could just fold it like that and tuck it out of the way. The other option is if I mount it over here, the mount is a little bit in a less conspicuous place. I just feel like over here it's kind of like out in the middle. Here it's more tucked away, but the downside is I could really only use the table right here when I'm sitting down right here. It doesn't extend to any of the seating over here, and then when it's not in use, I could just tuck it away over here. So one bummer is, since this lip right here at the top of the seating sticks out so much further than the wall, typically this would just mount directly onto the wall, but since there's the lip here blocking it, there's this big gap, so I'm gonna have to mount it onto, I think I'm just gonna cut like a section of a 2x4 or something, just to help this wall extend a bit out, and then that way the table can mount right to that 2x4 piece, and then the 2x4 piece will mount to the wall. Although I do really like the idea of the mount being tucked away and tidy over on the far side over there, I think I would rather have the versatility of being able to use the table from multiple different spots. So I think right here is going to be where I mount it, and honestly it's probably going to look just as clean over here at the end of the day. This looks like a pretty clean section right there. I'm also going to bring this piece just to use as a little test fitting. All right, so this guy will get mounted onto a 2x4, and that's pretty perfect actually. It's like the perfect amount of clearance without having to fabricate any sophisticated mounting block here. Just a simple 2x4. Just gonna mark where I want to cut this. That looks perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So I got the mount all set up and it's working great. Great location. Everything went smoothly. Only I discovered a minor problem at the end. So apparently this wall here is not as sturdy as it appears, because you look at it and you think this is a very stable, sturdy, and secure wall. But watch this. So it looks like this whole wall down here is not as secure as I would have imagined. It seems like it's just like a piece of plywood that's stuck onto some foam insulation, and there might be some framing along the top and the bottom where he nailed it down to secure it. But there's not really that much support in the center, since there doesn't seem to be like support beams running vertically at all. At least it doesn't appear to be that way. It's one of the bad things about having a home-built camper that you didn't make yourself. You don't really know exactly how things are built. But that being said, the table's a little less secure than I would have liked. So I'm just gonna have to be mindful and, try not to put too much weight on the table. Otherwise, I don't want to risk it like ripping out of the wall or something like that. If it ends up not working out, I'll have to just reevaluate then and maybe move the table somewhere else. But I might try to see if I could fasten this down a little bit better. I think that it seems like there is one spot here that's just maybe has come unfastened or something. Well, it does seem like it's a bit more stable now, a little bit more secure, but it's also still really squeaky, which is really unfortunate. But that's as good as it's gonna get as is. For now, I guess I'll just monitor it and make sure that it's stable enough to eat on and work on my laptop and stuff like that. It should be plenty stable for that. I don't imagine putting that much weight on it. But I'm hoping that the squeaking doesn't really present itself that often in day-to-day use. Otherwise, down the line, I might have to completely just remove this entire wall panel here and build some better, more secure framing, or at least get an idea of what it looks like under there, so that way I could try to, secure it down a little bit better. But that's a problem for further down the road. For now, I'm going to continue to mounting the tabletop here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the tabletop that came with this TV dinner tray. That way I don't have to spend any money on a tabletop right now, and also this dinner tray won't go to waste. Look at that. Nice. That's just terrible. got a little bit of some bad news. I was inside making some lunch, went back out to the cabin, only to discover that the table had completely pulled the wall away from where it was mounted. And I looked behind to get an idea of how it was built. And apparently what I thought was like the wall, the plywood wall on the outside, was actually just a very thin skin that was nailed to a piece of XPS foam insulation. So not very secure at all. Definitely not secure enough to mount a table to that. And it's actually kind of a good thing that I discovered it when I did, because imagine I had like a hot plate of food on there or something, and then all of a sudden it just like ripped away from the wall and just spilled everywhere, or spilled on Kaya or something like that. That would have been all bad. But anyways, I'm gonna have to completely figure out something else, but I do have a couple ideas up my sleeve, so not to worry. But I'll have to do that at another time because we've run out of time in this video. That being said, the upgrades that I was able to implement, the fridge, the diesel heater, even that coat rack thing that you saw, the coat hanger, I think that those are gonna make a huge improvement on my overall just quality of life while camping in the cabin. And yeah, really excited to have all that stuff taken care of. And now that I have a heater and a fridge, we should be getting on the road here very shortly. So the next time you see me, the next time you see us, might be somewhere on the road. That being said, that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you guys like always for watching. This is Kaya's freaking favorite activity. It's all she wants to do at home. She just wants to play tug of war all day. It literally bothers me all day to try to play. Anyways, enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Catch you in the next one. Peace.